Hi, and welcome to the 10 square metre workshop. If you're a wood carver or a wood turner, then you'll have curved chisels like this, which need sharpening from time to time. If you have a whetstone grinder like this one, then you don't have to worry about overheating the steel when you're doing the sharpening. But with a curved blade it can be difficult to keep the angle right, and you'll probably remove more metal than you really need to. There are of course jigs to do this, but they're quite expensive, up to half the cost of that whetstone grinder. But of course you can always make your own, coming up after this. The starting point for the gauge jig will be this rather unpromising looking piece of steel tubing, plus some bronze bushes from my spares box. The tube was first faced off and bored out 13mm clearance. It was then counterbored 15mm to take the bushing. These are a tight sliding fit. After a light plaster cleaned it up, it was then parted off. The bearings were then pressed into place. The bearings were then bored out to 12mm, so that it is a smooth sliding fit on the shaft. I turned the second part using high-speed tool steel instead of carbide for a much better finish on this type of steel. The rotating shaft will be 10mm, which is the original size of these bronze bearings. The joining stud for the two parts was made out of brass, and the whole lot wired together, ready for brazing. Immediately after brazing, and still hot. The rotating part consists of the shaft itself, a shaped washer, and the knuckle. These were fitted together, and they were then brazed together into one piece. When assembled into the frame, it looks like this. The tool holder I shall be machining out of this piece of 25mm aluminium. Quite a lot to do to it. The block was first machined square. Next step is to make the hole that holds the tool to be shaped. I shall be doing this by drilling holes, as it's a very fast way of removing metal. One of the few advantages of a drill mill is you can do this under hand pressure. Final drill size 10mm, so it now looks like this. From there it's largely a matter of joining up the dots. After much toing and froing, the hole is cut. Next, much of the waste was sawn away, leaving a long face for reference. And here it is, mounted on parallels, ready to cut those surfaces. Having surfaced the top so it's flat, I can now measure to see how much more needs to be taken off to meet the desired dimension. I've now levelled the second horizontal surface. This will be the bearing surface, and I need to place a hole here just over 12.5mm to take the 25mm diameter knuckle. So how do I get it exactly in the right place? Well, I already know this direction because I've just machined this face. So on the DRO I can zero that reading. If I now move it 12.6mm to the right, I will have the right x-axis. I'm setting it at 12.6, which gives me 0.1 clearance. I have now zeroed that to remember the position. To find the Y centre of the piece, I first edge find the far side. That's it. And again. That's it. I then zero the Y. I now repeat the exercise for the near side. There it is. I now select the Y channel and press the half button, and that gives me the center point. I don't have to worry about the diameter of the edge finder. It is the center. With the center drill now mounted in the spindle, I now move to 0, 0 on the DRO. Now I'm directly over the center, and I can drill my center hole. A 5mm pilot and then a 6mm clearance drill was next. The last part to machine on this side is the 45° angle. Here I'm referencing it to the inside using a parallel. The centre of the tool in the jig needs to be on the centre line of the rotating part to get an even cut both sides. To ensure this is correct, using a surface plate and slip gauges, I first measure the offset the current dimension gives me and compare that with the height the tool will rest. The difference is the amount of metal I need to remove from this surface. The result is 1.55mm to remove. With that done, the waste material on the other side was sawn off and was machined flat and level. Next, I need to put the radius on the knuckle. This will involve using the rotary table in the mill. The first step is to get the rotary table central with a concentricity meter. The objective is to adjust it to get the minimum movement. Such as this. The workpiece was located at the pivot point and then bolted firmly down. I can now rotate the table to make the cut. Small amounts to start with, gradually increasing to get to the desired diameter. And here it is after the final pass. For the clamping screw hole, I touched off all four faces and found the centre, which is centre drilled, then 5mm, which is 6mm tapping size. And then tapped at 6mm. Next, the slots for the clamping bar. I found the edge of the piece, moved to 14.5. which will be the end of the slot, so I can zero there. I'm going to use a 9.5mm end mill here, so I can open it up to a precise 10mm slot. The result is this slot. After all that machining, you end up with this. To locate the rotating shaft, a small bush was made and a bearing surface machined on the shaft. This retains the shaft, as can be seen. The last part is a piece of 10mm rod, cross-drilled 4mm in the middle. This acts as the clamping bar to the chisel, holding it square to the frame. Using a bar to clamp the chisel means it's held horizontally with respect to the knuckle. The jig holds a curved chisel at the correct angle for the blade, and you rock it back and forwards, ensuring an even grind. Of course, you also have to move it back and forwards across the surface as you're doing it to get an even movement across the whetstone. For every size chisel, there's a bar height, a knuckle angle and an extension length that matches the angle of cut. Well, there was quite a lot of work in making that jig, but I found it worthwhile. It was a good machining exercise. And now I have a way of sharpening my gouges that allows me to do it easily and with very little metal need to be removed. I hope you found this interesting. Why not subscribe? And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.